Welcome to the first video on graph theory. In this video, I will just introduce a graph. Just introduce the graphs, different types of graphs. What is a graph? A graph is something like there are many nodes, and maybe some of the nodes are connected through lines. That lines are called edges. So graph is basically nodes and edges. Graphs are basically nodes and edges. If you look at any graph, this is nothing but a nodes and edge. That is, these are nodes, okay, and some of the nodes may be connected, okay, maybe this and this are connected. Then this is one graph. This node and this node are not connected. Real world entities are translated into the graphs, and then with all the detailed subject matter of graph, like there are many things that we will learn about a graph, about in how many ways can you color the nodes such that no two adjacent nodes are of the same color. So these things are we are going to cover in graph theory as a mathematical or as a subject in itself. But in real life, what happens, many real life, like for example, social network in Facebook, different profiles. Let's say this is one profile, one person, one account of one person. This is another person, this is another person, this is another person. Let's say this person is Gulam. Okay, let's say this person is Moinuddin, and let's say this person is Ramesh. Okay, now so these the nodes are representing people, and if there is an age between the two nodes, it means they are friends. So they are means this is one user Gulam, Moinuddin is another user, Ramesh is another user, and if there is an age between Moinuddin and Ramesh, means that they are friends. Okay, and if let's say this is Mayank, then Gulam is friend with Mayank, Mayank is friend with Gulam, Moinuddin is friend with Ramesh, Ramesh is also friend with Moinuddin. So there are two types of graph actually. When it comes to the age, you can see that one edge that connects two nodes, the edge is signifying some sort of relationship. Edge can be directed or undirected. This is the case of undirected graph. Okay, this is an undirected graph. Maybe Mayank and Ramesh also friend, and maybe Moinuddin and Mayank are also friends. Okay, but Gulam only has one friend, which is Mayank. So this is one graph, and this is an undirected graph. This is undirected graph. Undirected graph means that there is no direction to the edge. It's not like the edge is. It's not like Mayank. The edge is emanating from Mayank to Moinuddin. No, it does not matter. Is just this edge is just connecting the two vertices. So the two vertices, this vertex and this vertex. Let me just give the names as G and M, R, and this as My, or okay, My, or simply as Y. Okay. So these vertices that are called the endpoints for this edge. For this edge, these are the endpoints. These are the endpoints. We will see also that M and Y are also adjacent vertices. What are adjacent vertices? There are a lot of vertices in a given graph. Out of all the nodes, okay, for a given node, what are the nodes that are adjacent to it? Like M and G, they are not adjacent to each other because they are not connected through any edge. But M is connected to Y through an edge, and M is connected to R through an edge. So M and Y are adjacent vertices. M and R are adjacent vertices. Right now, just focus on the word endpoints. That from an age perspective, what are the endpoints of the age? It's Mayank and Moinuddin. Okay, for this age, what are the endpoints? Gulam and Mayank. For this age, what are the endpoints? Mayank and Ramesh. For this age, what are the endpoints? Moinuddin and Ramesh. Okay, but in some cases, in some real world entities, in some real world examples, the age need to be directed age. Okay, this is the scenario of Facebook friends, social networking. This is an example of social network. So in social network, when it comes to something like Facebook, you send friend request, and if accepted, then both become friends. So undirected graph serves as, so each edge is serves as how the two nodes are connected. If the two nodes are connected through an edge, then that edge uh, means the relation between the two. So this edge means friends. Okay, now how to describe an example, a real world case for a directed graph? Okay, maybe think about um, that nodes represents people. People may be men or women. Okay, if the ages signify one-sided lover. Now, to signify one-sided lover, you need to have a directed edge. Undirected edge would not suffice. To for just to show one-sided lover, you need to have a directed edge. So let's say, now maybe this boy secretly admires this girl. Okay, first of all, I should not take this example because love is not real. No, no, actually, it's real. I'm not taking the one sided lover. Let's take that directly as a relationship. Let's say, let's say this B1 and G1, they are in relationship. Okay, so B1 loves G1 in a relationship. If a boy and a girl are in a relationship, then boy loves a girl, but you cannot you and maybe you may have this also. Okay, highly unlikely. Maybe you have this also. Then what does it mean? It means that this B1 loves G1 and G1 loves B1. Okay, let's say B3 and G2, they are also in a relationship, and B3 loves G2. Okay, but actually G2 is in a relationship for the sake of being in a relationship because it's a fashion. And G2 can anytime, G2 is role playing. Okay, G2 is very good at role playing. So B3 may think that this love is from both sides, but if let's say B2 approaches G2 and B2 is better in her mind, if B2 is better, then maybe she will dump him and she will get into relationship with B2. But in that case also, this is a one-sided love, and B2 is a evil person because he is stealing someone else's girl. So B2 loves G2, and but still there is not going to be uh, a reverse age because this type of girls are not capable of love. Anyways, in this case, let's name this type of graph as love graph. Love graph. Now, to represent a love graph, to represent the love, Lots of love. In form of graph, you need to have a directed graph. Okay. Graphs may be directed graph or it may be undirected graph or it may be mixed graph also. Mixed graph means that in the same graph you may have undirected edges between two nodes, or you may have directed edges between some other two nodes. The example of it is road networks. You are representing each place as nodes. P4 is another place. You are representing each place as nodes, and they may be connected. P1 and P2 may be connected. Okay. And if it's a directed edge from P1 to P2, it means what? It means that P1 is connected to P2, but there is no return way directly from P2. So maybe the other role network is this, that if you are at P2, you cannot go directly through P1. Means it's a one way only. Okay, but P2 is connected to P3, and let's say from P3 you have an undirected edge. It means what? It means that P1 and P3 are connected. So it's a two way. Undirected edge means a two-way, a road that is two ways. So if someone is at P2 and he has to go to P1, he will follow this path. So this is what we will do in graph theory actually. That how are you going to go from one node to another node? Like just I said, it has to follow this path. So these are the things that we will actually learn in graph theory. That what is a path, what is a walk, what is a clique, what is this and what is that. Now, so far I have shown that the graphs may be directed graph may be undirected graph may be mixed graph. Okay, but it is not just limited that the two nodes are going to be connected with one edge only. Okay, two nodes may be connected with multiple edges. Okay, okay, I will not take any real world example. I will just show that these things are possible. Like you may have, okay, this is called multiple edges. This is called multiple edges. So that is, if this is vertex B, vertex C, vertex D, then between B and C, your B and C are connected by two edge. B and C are connected by two edges. So this is called multiple edges between two vertex. So these are multiple edges, and it may also happen that you have an edge on the same vertex. Okay, and then this type of edge is called self loop, or simply loop. Okay, so far what we have seen, that the edges can be directed or undirected. So let's look at different types of graphs now. Types of graphs. There are three types of graphs. Based on the type of edges, there are three types of graphs. One is directed graph. If the edges are directed, okay, then undirected graph. If the edges are undirected edges, or you may have a mixed graph also. If in the same graph you have directed edges also and undirected edges also. This type of edge, this is a single edge from A to B. Okay, and here you have multiple edges from B to C. Now if your graph does not have any multiple edge, or it does not have any self loop, if it does not have multiple edge, or if it does not have self loop or loop, then that type of graph is called simple graph. Simple graph. What is a simple graph? A graph that has no multiple edge, no multiple edges, and no loops. That is a simple graph. It goes for both directed and undirected. So if it's a directed graph, then it's a directed simple graph, and if it's an undirected graph, then it's a simply undirected simple graph. You know what it is. If you do not allow the self loop in your graph, okay, but multiple edges are allowed, but self loops are not allowed, that is called multi graph. So what is multi graph? multigraph is that multiple edges allowed, multiple edges allowed, and loops are not allowed. Loops are not allowed. Multiple edges allowed and loops are not allowed. Multigraph. Multiple edges allowed, loops are not allowed. Then that is undirected multigraph. In directed multigraph, in directed multigraph, both are allowed actually. In directed multigraph, you allow both. Self loop are allowed, multiple edges are allowed. So any directed graph is a multigraph by definition. Okay, it is not the case that, if let's say if you do not have self loop and do not have any multiple edges, then it cannot be termed as a multigraph. No, it is still a multigraph. Multigraph means that if this graph is multigraph, it means that giving multiple edges is allowed. But if a graph is defined that this graph is a simple graph, then you cannot add a multiple edge, or you cannot add a self loop on that graph. So it is about allowance. So in directed multigraph, so you can say that multigraph is actually any directed graph. Simple graph is also multigraph, and any multigraph that has multiple edges is also multigraph. Any graph that has self loop is also multigraph. Any graph that has both multiple edge and self loop and single edges, that are also multigraph. But in case of undirected graph, what is a multigraph? For undirected, where only multiple edges are allowed. Here, this is what undirected multigraph is. This is undirected multigraph. Okay. What is the undirected graph? In which you allow both multiple edges also and self loop. They are called pseudographs. Pseudographs. So what is a pseudograph? What is a pseudograph? Where multiple edges and loops are allowed. Multiple edges and loops are allowed. Note again, this is allowed. If in a undirected graph, if there is no loop, there is no self edge, then this is a simple undirected graph, but it also qualify to be called as a pseudograph. Actually, pseudograph is any undirected graph because uh, it is allowing everything. Okay, very good. Okay, now a graph is basically nodes and edges. Okay, nodes are also called as vertices. Okay, so how do you represent vertices is through a set. Okay, I will do it in the next video now.